All right, hello everybody, and thank you for joining today's information session for students like you who are admitted to the dual program between the College of Arts and Sciences and the Maxwell School. My name is Rachel Skipper. I'm part of the group of people who are leading this session, who you'll meet in just a minute. And before we jump into it, the first important thing for me to say is congratulations on your admission, and to please mute your mics if you are not yet muted. The session is just intended to welcome you to the university and also to answer some somewhat specific questions that might be on your mind as to your next steps, what it's like to be a student in the dual program, and we just want to learn more about you and help you learn more about us. So to that end, can we all start by sharing your name in the chat? I will post a message there so you get a little notification. While you do that, it's just for attendance. We want to know who's attending these sessions, and for the health of your email inbox, avoid sending reminders to attend sessions like these if you're already doing it. So just send that message in the chat, first and last name, send it to me privately if you'd rather not share with the group. And while you do that, I'll let the other Rachel and our student presenters introduce themselves.
Hello, everyone. Congratulations. You should be really proud of your achievement of being admitted to this dual program, which we will delve more into. I'm sure you have questions and what it means and the details, and we're happy to discuss that. My name is Rachel DuBois. I'm the Director of Undergraduate Recruitment in the Whitman School. So I work with the professors and staff and students in the Whitman School. So welcome, and happy to talk more and answer questions. And I'm joined by Bailey, who I'll have introduce himself now. We have two students joining us who are currently at Syracuse.
Yeah, hi everyone. My name is Bailey. I am a junior here at Syracuse studying supply chain management in Whitman, as well as chemistry in the College of Arts and Sciences. I'm from San Diego, and I love it here. So if you guys have any questions, please let me know.
And the student that I have joining us is Riona. She is another dual student. I'll let her introduce herself now.
Hi, everyone. My name is Riona. I'm currently a freshman. I'm studying international relations and management. I'm from Los Angeles, and I also really love it here. So just let me know if you have any questions.
And just for your peace of mind, this is not going to be the only time you're hearing from our current students. I know that you might be panicking already. That's it. No, that's not it. We know that they're an important part of why you're here, and that the opinions of our current students are extremely valuable to you, especially if you're still deciding whether you want to attend Syracuse. So there'll be plenty of dedicated time later in the session for you to hear from Riona and Bailey and ask them any questions you have. At this point, we're going to switch to talking a little bit more about what your academic planning should look like. And Rachel, do you want to kick that off?
Sure. So as you can see here, the dual program is this combination of not only two things, but really three. So you can see the diagram here, which represents sort of how the curriculum comes together. So first you have the liberal arts core, which we'll talk a little bit more about in just a moment. And that's sort of the foundation of courses across the university, courses that you will need no matter which program you were in, and you happen to be in both. And then your arts and sciences or Maxwell major, which you probably already know what that is if you were admitted to one of those programs. And so you applied intending to pursue that, and that will likely stay the same. And then you also will have a Whitman major and Whitman foundational courses. And so you'll start Whitman classes in your first year, and then more foundational intro business courses in your second year. And then your Whitman major will actually begin typically in your third year. So in addition to major are the intro sort of core business classes. So the combination of three courses really helps you to become competent in not only business, but also the liberal arts. And as you can imagine, in any job or any career field, having both solid liberal arts and solid business education can be so helpful whatever you decide your path might be. And you might already have some things in mind for your future, or you might have no idea. And either way, that's totally fine. You'll be able to explore different options and sort of build your path and goals, and things might change too. So there are lots of different people to help you along the way to figure out what your future might look like. And we'll talk more about that in a moment as well. And the dual is completed in 4 years. So even though you are doing these additional components as a part of your curriculum, still designed to be done in 4 years. There are some extra credits as a result, and students generally do not have a problem with fitting those extra requirements, extra credits in 4 years by doing extra courses along the way. And also if you're coming in with any AP or IB or dual college credits, that can be really helpful to just make it that much easier along the way. So we can talk more about that if you have questions, but I'll turn over to Rachel to go a little bit deeper into the curriculum.
Thanks. So just a few more details about each of those 3 bubbles on the Venn diagram that Rachel just introduced to you. And I'll start with the liberal arts core. And the core is really the essence of being at a liberal arts school while you're pursuing a business education. So we all know what the liberal arts is at this point, right? It's, if you're at a liberal arts school, it means getting a foundation in many different areas and then a deep education in the topic that's most interesting to you. And before you start rolling your eyes, oh, they're going to make me take classes I don't want to take, right? A lot of times that's what students jump to when they think about core requirements. You've just gotten done doing this in high school for many of you, where you have to take courses from all these different areas, even if you're not really interested. Don't get nervous about that. I've listed these core competencies here: liberal skills, divisional perspectives, and critical reflections on the left-hand side of this chart. Those are our core requirements. And the nice thing about it is you can choose classes that make sense to you and that are interesting to you that help you develop these competencies. So it's really not a set of classes you have to take, it's a set of skills we want you to build. And you can build those skills in ways that are interesting to you, right? So for liberal skills, for example, for some students, that language might be Spanish. For some students, it might be a different language. For some students, they'll opt out of language altogether and instead build more quantitative skills. All of our students have to have writing skills. If you're going into business, you have to be able to write and write well. So you will be taking a writing course or courses, but different students will take different courses that can fulfill that writing requirement. Some of our students go for creative writing. Many of you will go for more technical writing, but that will be up to each student. We also have a component called critical reflections on ethical and social issues. That one tends to be a little bit more broad, where we just want you to be able to think as a member of society and consider how groups of people interact and affect one another and how decisions can be widespread. And that's a really important topic for any college student, and you're certainly not exempt from that as a dual student. The nice thing about the core is that, again, you're kind of trying to cram a lot of coursework and a lot of skill building into a 4-year plan. So many of these core courses will be business classes, for example, so that you get all of these requirements done on time. So that's why we have the overlap in that Venn diagram. A lot of time the core class will also fulfill part of your arts and sciences major, or a core class that you took for writing, for example, might fill part of your business major. So this is done within the 4-year plan. It's not something that should stress you out. And certainly it's just a way for you to develop different skills through different classes that are going to be interesting to you either way. And then of course you have your Whitman major and your arts and sciences major, which is maybe the simpler part of this equation. The Whitman majors are listed here, so you'll be choosing one of those programs. And the arts and sciences majors that can be paired with a Whitman major are listed next. So you will have one from one list and one from the other list. And all the different combinations work, and it's about what's most interesting to you. Many of you have already kind of decided what program you'll be pursuing. Some of you are undecided with one college or another, and so maybe you'll be working with an advisor to identify which major is going to be the best choice for you. Ultimately, that's going to determine or be reliant on the kind of career you would like to pursue, and also what's most interesting once you're a college student. So if you're not sure, for example, which arts and sciences program you'd like to pursue, you'd work with your arts and sciences advisor to say, here's what I really don't like. Please don't put me in any of those classes. Here's what I really do like. And then channeling, whatever is more motivating to you into more classes on that topic, ultimately landing in a major. And not to worry, they will assign you classes that will count towards your graduation credits, even if you're experimenting a little bit with courses. So you're not wasting time. It's all for the purpose of graduation, it's all counting toward those final graduation credits. So if you have further questions for us about the academic planning, what kinds of classes you'll be taking, certainly ask. And I'm sure our students would love to share with you a little bit more information about the classes they've taken. And I kind of already alluded to the idea of working with advisors and kind of getting support while you're on campus. So that's the next point that Rachel is going to talk with you about. Who's helping you with all this complicated planning and who's making sure you get it all done in 4 years?
Yeah, thank you. And that's something that'll be really crucial in your journey, is ensuring that you're taking the right classes in the right semesters. So you will be hearing from your academic advisors, but it will also be important for you to be in touch with them each semester as you look forward to your registration in next semester. And that journey will begin, that process begins this summer. So in the month of June, you will, if you decide to come, you'll have to submit some information, and then your advisors will be actually building your schedule this summer for your first semester. So you don't need to worry too much about your first semester schedule. They'll make sure you're in exactly what you need to be in, and you'll be able to talk with them this summer about any questions. But basically, you have 2 academic advisors, one in each school, to assist you. And there is in Whitman a specific dual advisor. So they work with all of the students enrolled in our dual program. So that's really helpful as you sort of get to know them and they know the requirements of both of the curriculum of both schools. There are also career advisors. So as Rachel mentioned, you start to think about careers, which probably seem super far off right now. And don't let that word like scare you away, career. I tell students, like, even in your first semester, just getting to know your career advisor, even if you have no idea what career you'll be in, is useful, because those are the people who know about internships and they know about what types of things you can do right in your first year to build your resume, so that when you are applying to internships and eventually jobs, you're going to be a strong candidate. And so having career advisors will be helpful, and career support, even though I think the word career is sometimes misleading for students because also internships. And then you also have an arts and sciences or Maxwell faculty advisor, who is a really good resource and additional support to get to know, to talk about, advice from a professor's perspective. It's always good to have professors who you can go to for not only questions, but also letters of recommendation if you've gotten to know them and they know you as a student. So that's this automatic sort of resource available to you to take advantage of and get to know. And then you also have in Whitman another professor who's called a house mentor through the Impress program, which we talk about a lot more in our daily admitted student sessions. So you're welcome to join us for one of those to learn more. But basically, it's another sort of faculty mentor figure, advisor figure, who has either done a lot of research in business or worked in the business field. And so they have, lots and lots of experience to share with you. And then finally, a peer mentor who's an upper class student that actually starts reaching out to you over the summer to guide you and help you prepare for your arrival. All right, and so that's sort of just a summary of the different areas of support. And now we are going to have the most important part of our presentation, which is hearing from our students. And as they are talking, feel free to ask questions. We'll have more time for questions at the end, but if you think of something, feel free to ask a question in the chat, and they can sort of address that as they're sharing with you how they have so far used, this dual program and what it's like for them to be a dual student. So I will have Bailey kick it off, and then Riona.
Yeah, hey guys. So I think 2 of the biggest questions that most people have is how the course load is and overall credits wise, and how the classes are day to day. So, for me, I came in with a good amount of AP credit. I didn't max out AP credit. So if you haven't, don't worry about it. And that being said, I've only taken 1 semester with 18 credits. And next year, my last year, I'm going to have 2 semesters of 13 credits. So it's very doable. Also, I have changed both of my majors since I've come in. That is doable as well. I came in biotechnology and management, and now I'm supply chain and chemistry. So that's definitely, it's flexible. It's more flexible than you would kind of think. As far as course load and being overwhelmed with classes, I'm sure you guys are similar to me where, excuse me, you have a balance between wanting to do like the science and the business, and you can think with both hemispheres of your brain. So that helps. And I still have time to, hang out with friends during the day, eat, cook. I cook myself dinner every night. I'm still working out. So it is doable. It's not something to be scared of. And it's definitely worth the challenge.
Yeah, so like going off of that, I feel like the course load is definitely doable. And on top of that, there's so much support for not just dual students, really any students. Each dual student gets a plenty of advisors. And if you have any questions or into any problems, you always have someone to reach out to. And a few slides ago, they were showing like the liberal arts core and like the Whitman business classes. And it seems like a lot, especially with like the natural sciences and the social sciences, but there's so many options. Like, for example, I'm not really a science person, but there's so many interesting classes that you could take that aren't like your traditional science classes, like science of shipwrecks. And so overall, like all the classes and all the professors I've experienced have always been like really interesting and engaging.
If I can kind of piggyback off of that, like on the other side of it, I don't really love writing or those kinds of classes. So I was able to fill those requirements with like philosophy classes. So whatever side you normally think, you can find something that interests you.
Perfect. And can you, each of you, talk a little bit about like what you do outside of classes? I know, Bailey, you said you cook and work out, but like what other extracurricular clubs or things have you been a part of? And any other experiences that you think have been valuable on campus, even outside of like academics or anything?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, just saying, oh, I cook and clean makes me definitely sound like a pretty boring person. So I am a peer mentor in Whitman. I did that for 2 years. And then I'm also a Whitman ambassador. So, doing events like these and also through Whitman, that keeps me busy. I'm involved in one of Whitman's professional fraternities, Delta Sigma Pi. I'm on their e-board. So if you couldn't tell, based between the two majors, I'm leaning a little more towards business, just a little bit. So yeah.
And so I am still a freshman, so I'm still like exploring like everything that's on campus. So far I participate in the South Asian Student Association. That's been really fun. And with international relations and management, I am leaning towards pre-law. So I'm looking to kind of join the pre-law fraternity on campus and other things like that.
So if I may, I have another follow-up question, and this one's for Riona. So for the student audience to have some context, before this session, I was talking to Riona, hey, would you mind coming to this session? And she was like, well, I'm not really sure if I have enough Syracuse experience. I'm only a freshman, right? I've been here for less than a year. And I said, no, I think that is really interesting to these students, what it's been like for you since you are so new to campus. And the students in the room who are not yet at Syracuse, I know this is something you're thinking of. What are those first few days going to be like? What's my schedule going to look like? Who's going to be the points of contact that I come in touch with when I come to campus? So Riona, you've done this all during a pandemic. So applause to you for making it through what's been, I'm sure, a difficult first year of college. But I think the COVID situation was definitely more severe for you coming in than it will be for these students. So what advice do you have in terms of getting involved digitally, life as a socially distanced college student? What has it been like, and do you have any advice for these students who will be going through a somewhat less dramatic, but still COVID conscious first year of college?
Right. So I think the transition between high school to college has always been hard, but especially during a pandemic where everything is online, it was probably even harder. And so I'd say within my first month, I really struggled with reaching out when I needed help or just reaching out if I had any questions. And so my biggest piece of advice would be like, don't worry about like what other people think of you, just or don't worry about like um, getting intimidated by professors, really just reach out if you need the help. Attend office hours, go to tutoring sessions, um, and just don't hesitate when you need help.
I think that's great advice. I mean, we just got done talking about the support network that you'll have, and Rachel listed off a really strong number of advisors that you'll all have. And I think that's something that Syracuse does really well, is to put these resources in front of you, but they will not force you to use many of these resources. And exactly what Riona said is true. You're a college student now, you need to advocate for yourself. And these people are being paid to help you. So seek out the help, ask them questions. Absolutely, that's advice that I hear from students a lot. And I'm sure that in a socially distanced environment, it's a little harder for you to see that support network. So I think it's important for all students to know that it's available to you. And it's one of the reasons that a lot of students come to Syracuse, is the great amount of staff and faculty support that our students receive. During that kind of advice from Riona, I did get a private message from a student wondering, will we be in person in the fall? And the plan for now is yes, that we will be. Of course, I cannot tell the future, and I cannot promise you that there won't be another spike in COVID cases. Knock on wood. I wish I had some wood around that I could knock on. So hopefully we will still be on campus if we keep making good progress as a community. Then yes, we are on track to be on campus with roommates, the whole thing, in the fall. So we hope that remains the case. If there are other questions, let me know. Have any of our other presenters received private questions that they would like to respond to?
I have not, but I have a question personally that I think is interesting. If each of you could touch on this. You're both from California. I don't know where our students listening are from, but could you just share a little bit about what it's like to be a student in Syracuse from your perspective, you know, both from the West Coast and just some things that you've picked up on or been a part of?
Sure. Yeah. Everyone's always, as soon as you say, as soon as I say I'm from San Diego, people are always like, oh, how's the cold? And I personally have a little more of an affinity towards colder, cooler weather. But also, if you're living in a dorm, living in an apartment, those kinds of things, you don't have to shovel snow. So living in a snowy city doesn't apply to you as much. So you might as well take advantage of having seasons and having a winter when it doesn't necessarily apply to you. But as far as, you know, being far from home, those kinds of things, it's so easy nowadays just to keep in touch with people back home. And I still call my parents every day. And you also a testament to the fact that this is doable. You still have time to call people from home. So.
Yeah, I'm kind of the opposite. I hate the cold. But my experience with it hasn't been bad at all. I think it's definitely manageable. And I've always wanted to live on the East Coast, and Syracuse is such a beautiful like city. The falls are super pretty so far. And being far from home, I think has been also like a really valuable thing, and I've really enjoyed it so far.
So I've received a couple other private questions, and I believe they're for the students. So it'd be great if you could help me answer them. The first is, how is life in general, COVID and non-COVID times, sports, activities, clubs, etc. I can kind of speak to the general environment on campus, not during COVID, which was tons of students outside all the time, even in the winter. So in the summer, it's a lot of spike ball, frisbee, soccer, etc. Just hanging around on the quad, putting down a blanket, studying with your friends in the sun. I mean, that's the best time in my mind at Syracuse, and the most energizing for me walking around campus. A lot of kind of just hanging around between classes. That's a big piece of it, and not something you're used to as high school students yet. having an hour or 2 hours between classes, right? And most of our students have strong social networks on campus. So they kind of just, leave class, meet up with some friends, eat on campus, study, hang out, and then go into another class. So that kind of social environment is definitely infused into the day and so much more obvious when the weather is warm and students do this outside and they're hanging around. We have a beautiful campus. If you haven't, Googled some images of Syracuse campus or seen them on our website, you should do that. It's a huge draw to campus. And then during COVID, we've been seeing lots of students take advantage of virtual activities. There was one activity that was like succulent planting class and like succulent maintenance, where students socially distanced went and picked up their plants from the barn center and then had an online class about gardening and that kind of stuff. So there's been a lot of campus organizations and student-led organizations doing really creative things to help our students bond even in a socially distant format. Students, do you have, I know Riona can't really speak to life at Syracuse pre-COVID, but you said that you are part of the South Asian Student Association. Can you talk a little bit about what it's been like to join a club or org during COVID? And then maybe Bailey could chime in about his perspective of campus pre-COVID.
So I think obviously participating in clubs is harder during a pandemic, but I think the clubs on campus have worked really hard to still throw events and still get everyone involved. I will say I kind of was in a similar situation last April/May when I was deciding to come to Syracuse because I couldn't visit campus because that's when the pandemic had first hit. So what I would do is I would go on YouTube and just search day in the life Syracuse University, and that's how I kind of got a feel for how campus life would be pre-COVID. So if you want to kind of see that for yourself, I would definitely recommend doing that.
It's actually a great idea. I wouldn't even have thought of doing that. So yeah, I mean, I still think every day about life on campus. Like Rachel was saying, walking around, seeing people just out and about all day is pretty cool. But, with COVID, all of the downsides of COVID comes a lot of benefits. And when the sun does come out, I'd say there are more people enjoying that sunshine, enjoying an opportunity to get outside. Since there are Zoom classes, a lot of people are doing them outside, which is pretty cool. I love seeing that. But yeah, I mean, it's a really good campus feel when COVID isn't going on. So, walking between classes and just bumping into people, not wearing that before wearing masks and being able to say hi to everybody and recognize people. Syracuse is a huge campus, but it is a surprisingly small community. Especially since you guys are duals, you'll have, arts and sciences people that are in all classes, and you'll bump into them, you'll say hi, and then you'll have all of your Whitman peers. And you'll have these two pools of people that you can always call upon. And it's a really great feeling.
I really miss that, hearing kind of Bailey describe that energy on campus is really unbeatable. I did not attend Syracuse University for undergrad. I moved to Syracuse and started working at Syracuse. And when I first came onto campus, I thought, this is what college looks like in the movies. This is how college students act in the movies. From, hanging out on the quad and eating together in the dining halls, and you see people goofing off and on skateboards and running around. And in the winter, students are sledding on the hill and having snowball fights. And there was a million snowmen built all around campus, and just funny stuff that college kids do. So it's a really fun school because the spirit is so strong between D1 sports and just everything orange all the time, and having students who are rowdy and fun and joking around, but then also really intelligent, hardworking students. So it's a great balance between a fun college environment and also a really academically motivating and challenging environment. I got another kind of specific question. What are classes actually like? For example, seminar, lecture, size of the class, etc. So maybe if Riona and Bailey could both give an example of the smallest class you've taken thus far and the largest class you've taken thus far. That's usually a helpful metric. Sometimes students ask about the average. And I'm like, you'll never sit in an average classroom of the classes you've taken. You're going to sit in really big classes and really small ones. So if you could each give those 2 examples, I think that might be helpful to the student audience.
Yeah, I'll just go ahead and jump in first. So my Whitman classes have all sat around 40 to 50 people, which is fine because I had classes in high school that were about that size, which is really nice. So my smallest I've ever had is actually right now. I'm in inorganic chemistry lab, and there are 5 people in it. And then the largest one I've ever had was Gen Chem 1, and I think there were about 200 or so. But the benefit of that is, you go to these big lecture halls or online, and then you have a smaller in-person recitation. That'll probably be about 15 kids and a TA who's going to teach you and really help you with the material. I sometimes do my best learning with a TA because you're in this small environment and they're really just there to help you. So everywhere from 5 people to 200 is what you'll find.
Yeah, I feel like with some of the online classes this semester, there's been like a lot more people in my classes. For example, my econ like 101 class had 250 people in it, but there's like 6 to 7 TAs, so you can always reach out to someone if you need it. And my smallest class is also this semester with 9 students, but that class is a foreign policy class, and it's really interesting because it's actually taught by a former Deputy Secretary of State under Hillary Clinton. And so being in such a small class with such a highly regarded professor, it has really been really interesting and really valuable.
So kind of on that topic of learning from professionals in the field, yes, you will do this in class. Riona's example is a great one. We do have professors who are not just professors, right? Who also had other jobs outside of Syracuse or currently have other positions outside of Syracuse and then come into the classroom and teach. And I think that's hugely useful. That's often the biggest difference between a high school teacher and a professor is that they have real world experience working in the fields they're teaching you about because they teach on very niche subjects. You're not just kind of a science teacher anymore or a biology teacher anymore, right? You're going to have like principles of evolutionary developmental biology, right? So it's someone that works on that thing specifically. So that's a really cool example of a way that you're going to learn from professionals in the field just by going to class. And then another way, obviously, that we have our students getting involved in their future fields is through internships. And I know both Riona and Bailey have been involved with internships. So if each of you could share how you got your internship, I think that's critically important to our audience today is how do you get there, not just where do you go. So how you got your internship position, how you learned about it, if anyone helped you along the way, and then also what you're doing in that position and what you've learned so far.
Yeah, so it's the way I thought. So I'm going to be in Medline doing product management, and the way I got it's kind of crazy to think about, but it's really because of my majors, talking to recruiters, talking to interviewers, and them saying to me, we haven't seen this before, you're very unique, and we like that. If that's not a selling point, I don't really know what is. So, and it wasn't just the one company I'm at, it was other companies that I got offers from, if I can toot my own horn. But, they were saying, this is awesome. This is something that we look for. We look for uniqueness. I did use Whitman's career services, and freshman year, I was like, no, I don't need it. I'll do it myself. Got no offers. Sophomore year, same thing. I was like, I can figure it out myself. Got nothing. And then junior year, finally, I went to them, and now I'm set for the summer. So it can be as simple as talking to people. You're going to end up having friends that are older than you that have other stuff. So, talking to them, asking them to look over your resumes or help you with interview practice or anything like that can also be beneficial. But career services definitely works.
Bailey, if I could have you explain a little bit more about like what your internship is, just for all of us?
Yeah, sorry. Okay, so Medline is the #1 medical supplies company in the nation, and their big specialty is supply chain, which is my major. So product management is basically it's easier to explain the full-time role than an internship role, because an intern's probably just going to be crunching numbers in Excel. But as a product manager, I will be responsible for a specific line of products on a nationwide scale, and everything from the development of it, which ties into my chemistry background, to the distribution of it, which is my supply chain background. So I was able to find a synergy between the two and push them forward. If you're not interested in those kinds of a thing, medical field, no worries. I was talking to somebody who worked at Heineken, and he was saying that he had to actually get a certificate that said that he understood basic chemistry, and he had to pair that with his supply chain major. So being able to pair the science and business, from everybody I've talked to, they've said that it's a very valuable degree.
So this summer, I'm going to be interning at LA County's Public Defender's Office. And so how I got the internship is I knew I wanted to work in the legal field, so I was kind of just looking around. And this position needed a letter of recommendation, which I was honestly really nervous about because I had only had 5 professors at Syracuse so far. But I reached out to one, and she was super nice about it, super sweet, really helped me out and gave me a lot of advice. And another thing that looked really good on my application was that Whitman makes all freshmen become Excel certified. And so the Excel certification definitely, I think, pushed me over the edge. And as part of my internship, I record depositions. I honestly do kind of just like intern things. Like I answer phones, I input things on Excel. But overall, I've really enjoyed my time at the office so far, and it's really given me like the foundation I need before I start applying to law schools.
So hopefully the students in the audience are kind of understanding that this research and internships and getting real world experience is a huge part of what we push at Syracuse University, certainly for our business students, maybe even more for our business students than for other students. And that's certainly something that's going to be part of your Syracuse education. And like Bailey said, it really will be worth your time to take advantages of the resources that are available to you with career advising and your professors and anyone that's on campus to help you. That's where your tuition dollars go, right? Paying these people to help you succeed. So we really do want you to take advantage of those resources because it only puts you on the fast track to get these kinds of experiences and build a resume. Many Syracuse students who do internships end up getting job offers from those internships, and whether they choose to take those jobs or not is a different story, right? But it is a very common thing for one of their job offers to be from one of their internship sites, and then that they have other job offers and they get to choose between job offers. And that's the life you want to be living as a senior in college, is to have multiple job offers that you're choosing from, and for one of them to be in a field where you've already worked with people you've worked with. Helps you evaluate whether that's a company that you want to work with or not. So we hope that all of you end in that position, and the best way you can get there is to take our students' advice and seek out help and use the support that Syracuse offers you. I think this puts us on a really good track to switch over to talk about career opportunities. Because the dual program is relatively new, there is little data on graduates and where students who have completed the program have gone on to. So Rachel and I both kind of brainstormed about this, and the general concept for dual programs is that you want to do business and you want to do business in a certain area, right? So the kind of business that you would like to be involved in, whether it be entrepreneurship, supply chain management, marketing, the Whitman School helps you with that. You get a major in that. In the field, right, depends on your arts and sciences major. So Bailey mentioned medical fields, medical supplies, a STEM major makes a lot of sense, right? If you are interested in going into publishing, right, an English major makes sense. So it just depends on what field you'll be working in. You get an in-depth knowledge and you gain credibility in that field. So when you're someone on the business side who's entering that field with an idea or with a proposal, or you're collaborating with people who are, let's say, chemists, then you have a chemistry background, so you're credible in that environment. So having these two majors come together really kind of determines the outcome and the field that you go into. So we have some kind of little equations on the slide for you that kind of show you where these different fields intersect, because we know there are so many business majors and so many arts and sciences majors. So just some hypothetical examples. Bailey probably likes the pharmaceutical development example the most because that's probably the closest to what he's doing. Marketing management and biology is another pharmaceutical type example where sales are involved, but so is chemistry. So you need the marketing side and also the biological side. A lot of our students are interested in doing international business. I think Riona's kind of background might be more closely related to that. So you need that understanding of international relations, languages, cultures, governments, policies, as well as the business side of what you're doing. So we see a lot of students using the international relations side in addition to their business program. Real estate, I know a lot of you are interested in real estate. That's something that I hear from students somewhat frequently. So you can take that to an international place as well by looking at international relations. Another really common thing if you're interested in real estate is to use geography within arts and sciences, which has a really strong component in kind of city planning and those kinds of topics. So you can certainly take an arts and sciences approach to your real estate major with business. So again, different students will resonate with different examples on this slide. Everyone is different. But again, just to kind of reiterate the fact that you have a specialization in business, but you're also getting real knowledge about that field to make you credible when you go into those first business meetings, when you try to form partnerships, and in your day-to-day life as someone who's employed in the field. So I don't have any more questions, I don't believe, in the chat. If you did ask me a question and I skipped over it, I did not do that intentionally, and let me know what your question is. In the meantime, Rachel, do you have any final comments for the student audience while we wait for any final questions to come in?
Yeah, thank you. I just think, don't hesitate to reach out to either of us if you have questions about things over the next, a little less than a month. I know, like Riona said, trying to make your college decision during this pandemic is not the easiest thing. And just know that there are tons of people to answer questions or help provide any clarity you're looking for as you narrow down your options and ultimately make a choice. Syracuse did just start offering in-person campus tours for admitted students. So I can actually put the link to register for that in the chat. We encourage you to come if you can. If not, there's plenty of virtual tour options, but if you want to get a feel for campus in person, there are outdoor tours that just started yesterday. So I'll get that. Any last words of advice, Bailey or Riona, to the students, or like parting thoughts?
I just got a really funny question in the chat. What's the biggest mistake an incoming freshman should avoid?
I was literally about to say my one regret, so that's kind of funny that it ties in perfectly. The only mistake that I've made at Syracuse, and only is definitely in air quotes. Everyone makes mistakes, but I came into Syracuse and I was a freshman, but I didn't want to act like a freshman, and that is the one mistake I made: is be a freshman, embrace it, take pictures in front of buildings with your family, be goofy, ask upperclassmen for help. Every single senior is going to wish that they were still in your shoes. And I missed the first night that I spent in Sadler, and that feeling of like, wow, this is college and this is what it is. So embrace that, lean into it, and it's only going to help you. If you can just, go in stride and recognize that you're a freshman and you'll have your time to be that upperclassman that's too cool for school. It'll be great.
Yeah, similar to Bailey, yeah, just in your first week, be as social as you can, reach out to anyone and everyone, don't be shy at all. And I definitely think you'll enjoy the time that you spend here.
I think that's great advice. I work with a team of student ambassadors, so I get to hear this kind of advice all the time. And I definitely think Riona's advice is the most popular piece of advice that I hear. Put out feelers, meet people, make more connections than you ever think you would want, and then prune them back, right? If you're overexerted, take a step back. That's the second piece of advice you will have to follow at a school like Syracuse, where there's so much on your plate and so many opportunities to take advantage of. But it doesn't hurt to just really put yourself out there at the beginning and see what resonates with you. That's kind of what it being a college student is all about. So with that, I think we are able to wrap up tonight. Thank you all for asking questions in the chat. That really makes our jobs easy. It helps us know what you're thinking of. And I think it makes the session more useful, not only for you, but to the other students in the classroom. So we appreciate you being here. We hope to talk to you again in the future. And thanks for your time tonight. We'll talk to you soon.
Thank you. Good night.